So the first thing I want to say
Okay.
is that the mirror exercise is a really tough one to do, okay? The reason
Yeah.
why it's tough is because we spend our whole life living through our eyes, right? And so we live as this person, and we have a perception of ourselves, which is different to how everyone else sees us. And maybe it's a bit different to how we see ourselves when we actually are faced with ourselves, right? So you are not used to seeing you. Like me, for example, I'm more used to seeing my wife and my parents and my children than I am used to seeing myself, right? Maybe I'll catch like a
Yeah.
minute or two of myself in the mirror in the morning when I get ready, right? But apart from that, I don't see myself. And even then, it's a very mindless thing of just going through the routine. So to sit in front of a mirror, it's kind of like you're sitting face to face with yourself. And it's kind of like you're face to face
Yeah.
with your faults and your regrets and your past. And it's like you're really facing yourself, right? And so that can be like very, very intimidating. It can be very anxious. It can be difficult for people. And everyone gets something different out of it. So I would say that, it's meant to be a tough exercise. It's meant to be a bit weird and a bit strange and all of that. So I think like that's the first thing I'd say about the kind of mirror exercise. There's two things I want you to notice about that as well, yeah? So one is the stuff that you actually wrote, okay? But
Yeah.
another thing that should come from the exercise is actually observing the way your thoughts work and the way your mind works. And that's one of the things I got from it. When I first did it, when I sat there, I was thinking, boy, like my head makes a lot more noise than I thought it did. Like normally living life, if you kind of
Yeah.
think your head is silent, but when you sit there
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
second, you realize there's a lot of noise going on up here, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. And this is what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
being self-aware, that once you start to understand like what's going on and you can see, oh, in this situation, my ego is being engaged, right? I need to act like this
Mm.
or this is happening. So I think like make sure that you always look at how you're thinking and learn about yourself as well. So I think it's amazing that you wrote so many points down and you got lots of that down. In regards to some of the other things you're mentioning, so first thing I would say is that if you have a strong morning routine, some of those questions that you're talking about, they won't come up. And I'll give
Okay.
you a good example of this. In the last few
Yeah.
weeks, I've driven about 2,000 kilometers around Turkey so far. And what I've been doing is the same thing as you, like my kids in the car, like are they just gonna like watch something or are they gonna listen to something? What's the plan? So the way I've been doing it is like when we get in the car, like the first thing we do is we make the dua for leaving the home or for traveling, okay? Then the first thing I do is I play some Quran for them, like actually to hear real Quran, okay? Then
Yeah.
there's translation of the Quran, which is a really good translation. I play that for them in pure English. And then after that, I'm like, you can listen to your audiobooks, you can listen to your nasheeds, and you can listen to all that stuff, right? So in the same
Mm.
way, that's how I try to plan my morning and my day as well, where I make sure that I tick off morning things that I need to do, like reading Quran, like planning my day, like doing the beneficial things. Now, I don't sit there for an hour and do 1 hour of Quran and 1 hour of planning and 1 hour of this and that. I do very short
Yeah.
minutes,
Yeah.
but I do it so that in the morning,
Yeah.
I feel like I've done these important things before I get onto something
Yeah.
else, right? So what I would say is for you in the same way, what I would advise is that, get clear on what your routine is. Maybe it's listening to Quran, maybe it's reading Quran, maybe it's understanding Quran, whatever it is, get clear on the routine, do all of those things. And then you can bring in the supplementary thing because one of the thing about
I gotcha.
time management is actually about life management, and life management is actually about priorities management, right? So you have to do the things that are most important first. If it's time for Fajr and you haven't
Mm.
made wudu and you haven't prayed Fajr and you start using the Headspace app, then you need your head checked, right? Because the priority is obviously to pray Fajr, right? So of course,
Yeah.
like when it
Yeah.
comes to those kind of things, you need to do that. But also you need to remember that the Muslim is actually not like the monks and not like the non-Muslims, that we don't just care about our akhirah or we don't just care about our dunya. We're actually balanced. We care about our dunya and our akhirah, right? So we don't have this mentality where, oh, just do the dunya stuff or just do the akhirah stuff, right? We're balanced between the two. And so that's the way you need to kind of think about this situation, is that I need to fulfill my obligations, whatever I feel they are, apart from Fajr, maybe it's Quran, Dua, Afkar, family, whatever it is, fulfill that stuff, but then make stuff for the other time, right? So that's something practical I would say to you. The other big thing I would say is like,
Yeah.
it's interesting because a lot of the questions that come from you are about understanding things, right? You're like, I did this happened, why did this happen? Okay, that's like a common thing going through your head, like, why did this happen, or how did this happen, and all of those kind of things. And I feel that a lot of this is very, very good. It's very positive because you try to understand things and then you can make a difference. But I think what happens a lot of the times when you do this is that there's too much thinking going on, right? And there's not enough action. And this overthinking and this lack of action is one of the things that will really slow you down or paralyze you. What you need to do is actually do the opposite of it. Instead of understanding why, instead of this and that, you should just get clear on what is the right thing to do and do it, and just keep moving forward. Like that should be your main thing. Like if there's something, I don't really understand, like imagine you're in a room and there's a lion there, right? You're not going to sit there and go, I'm trying to understand, why do I feel this fear of the lion? You'd never do that, right? You'd just be like, where is the exit? How do I get out of this room with the lion? You'd never sit and analyze your feelings. And unfortunately, like a lot of people will just spend so much time in their heads that they're just overthinking things. And apart from that hurting your head, in reality, the other main disadvantage is that that time that's going on thinking should be going on action, right? And if you spend that time on action rather than thinking about that same thing 27 times, you'll find that you'll move 27 steps closer to where you actually want to get to. Of course, your thinking might be less and you might not understand things that clearly, but there is another methodology. Remember, we say there's a methodology of ready, aim, fire, right? And then we said there's another methodology, which is ready, fire, aim. Like you fire and then you're like, I didn't quite get it. Let me move a little bit. Fire, let me move a little bit, right? And so in the same way, what I'm saying is that I think that as human beings, like part of us, we naturally have some skills, naturally have some benefits. And what we need to do is we need to play on those strengths. And then there's going to be certain other things that we're very extreme in. So in those extreme things, we need to move to the opposite extreme. So if I meet someone and there's someone who just is thinking too much and always overthinking things, I would say you need to go into extreme action, like go to the other side of the extreme and just take massive action. Don't worry about strategic stuff at all. Or if I meet someone who's so much into action, they don't even think about what they're doing. They just act. I tell them, you got to go to the other extreme where you got to get completely strategic. You have to be in that thinking mode. You just got to think. Right? Because what you need to realize is that the places where we are right now, where we're stuck, the reason why we're stuck is because we're behaving a certain way. And that pattern needs to be broken. Right? So the fact that you're taking action, that you're doing the things in the modules and you're actually going with it deeply and doing it properly, this is all amazing. This is all that the stuff that's going to help you, and it's going to help you become more self-aware, learn more about yourself. And these are the foundations and the building blocks for your confidence, right? Because now you're starting to get a picture of who you are and all these things. That's going to make you stronger. Now, as for the other thing that you're talking about, which is to do with, like, you're clear that your purpose is to worship Allah alone, right? Like, that's the overall purpose. I would say, first of all, you deserve a pat on the back for getting to that conclusion, if you truly feel that's your conclusion. Why? Because most of mankind
100%.
is not in that mindset, right? Most of mankind, when they say, what's the purpose of your life? When they're looking at a mirror, someone might say, well, it's to get my lips like looking a bit bigger, or my eyes to kind of, do this. I feel like it's a huge win, because if fundamentally someone comes to the conclusion that my purpose in life is to worship Allah alone, I'm saying, like, you've done what 99% of people don't do. So that in itself is a real big achievement, right? I would say also that when you're sincere in something like that, like, be 100% sure that Allah will guide you and provide for you in terms of what you should do. Because if you're sincere in it, like, Allah will accept your worship, right? So for me, what it's about is sometimes, like I say, people are not sure what to do because they haven't tried enough things, right? And it's like I said before, I said, like, if an alien came to a buffet and he said, what's my favorite food? He wouldn't know because he never tried any food. He'd have to try different foods, right? But in the same way, I think you'll find that as you do more of the kind of exercise and you've done these kind of things and you're learning about your personality, you're learning about these kind of things that you like, you dislike, you should be starting to see some form of a picture of what you really want to do, right? And I'm saying that even myself, I feel like it took me years. I feel like I changed from one to another, to another, to another. And I think that the important thing is for you to be in the process of being on a path to Jannah, rather than it being a perfect path to Jannah, right? So
Okay.
you
Yeah.
imagine, like, if you're on a path to Jannah, it might not be exactly the right one, it might not be the perfect one, but as long
Yeah.
as you know your purpose, as long as you're trying to fulfill your purpose and you're taking action on it, right? You're taking real action, not
Yeah.
just in your head, and you're having that impact and you're enjoying it and it's positive, then that's fantastic. You just keep on that path until you find something even more beneficial, even more pleasing to Allah, even more, beneficial for yourself, and something that gets you into flow and keeps you growing and contributing. And you just keep doing that. And this is why I'm saying that, when I think about my own path to Jannah, like, I feel like it started in a ridiculous way for me. It started in a ridiculous way where I just went to a university after I left university to try and help the local ISOC to give food in Ramadan. Like, for me, like, that's not a path to
Yeah.
paradise, really, right? That you can live your life on. But I just did that
Mm.
one small thing because I wanted to do some good. I wasn't sure what to do, and I just thought maybe I could do this, and I just did a bit of it, and then that led to something else, and that led to something else, and that led to something else, and it just all worked out.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, it all led to different things, right? But the point
Yeah.
is that if
Alhamdulillah.
I'd never gone back to uni to do that, then maybe nothing would have happened. And so what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that if you have that mindset of going out there and benefiting people, Allah will find a way for you. And the same thing happened when I wanted to teach Quran. Like, I felt like I know Quran. I want to teach it. I just got my cousins who live next door, and I got like neighbors, and then they just made it into bigger, bigger, bigger. And then I spent like 10, 12 years teaching Quran. So, like, it's just about you taking action. That's why I'm saying the action taker always
Yeah.
wins. Take action
Yeah.
and don't worry about perfecting things, right? Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
worry about
Yeah.
being on the right path.